Hi, I'm John F. Allen. And I'm R.J. Sullivan. And we're the Two Towers.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Two Towers Talk Show recap review for Supergirl. I'm your host, Tower 1, John F. Allen, one half of the Two Towers. Today we'll be recapping and reviewing Supergirl Season 1, Episode 15. There will be details of the episode discussed here which are spoilers. So, if you haven't yet watched the episode, please go watch it and then come back to view this show. Episode recap. Kara, aka Supergirl, journeys to the private sanctuary of her cousin Superman, known as the Fortress of Solitude, in hopes of obtaining information on how to defeat a cyber threat known as Indigo. Indigo is an android tied to Brainiac, a foe of Superman, and from Kara and Krypton's past, who can travel through the internet. Kara is still on the outs of the DEO, Hank Henshaw in particular, and refuses to be affiliated with them, even in the midst of a crisis where working together is necessary. Also, the relationship of James and Lucy takes a turn as an odd one develops between Wynn and Siobhan. So, on to the top 5 Tower talking points. Tower talking point number 1, Indigo. Brief backstory on Indigo. She was created in the distant future and designed by Brainiac 6 in order to assist Brainiac 1 in his plans for world conquest. Indigo was an android with a subprogram meant to endear her to the superhero community. This would allow her to get close to the superheroes so that she could gain their confidence and then disrupt them internally. She first appeared in the comics in a Teen Titans Young Justice special and fought both teams simultaneously. I like the fact that Laura Vandervoort, the actress who portrayed Kara, Supergirl in Smallville, was tapped to play Indigo in this episode. She was definitely tied to Brainiac, as we can see, hence the symbol that appeared in Kara's pod as she was entering Earth. I feel that Vandervoort did a good job in the role, and given the fact that pieces of her Indigo character, which were thought to be destroyed at the end of the episode, came into the possession of Nam, so I don't think we've seen the last of her. Tower talking point number 2, James and Lucy. The ship has sailed, and I couldn't be happier. I don't like Lucy Lane's character. I don't know if it's how needy she seems to be, how whiny she is, or how bitchy she was when she first appeared on the show with her father and was in the active in the military, but whatever it is, I don't like her. In this episode, James ends up spacing a date with Lucy because he was working with Kara to stop Indigo. Of course, Lucy was upset because the world and everything in it should revolve around her, even in the midst of a crisis. Same thing happens when Kara tries to give her a pep talk and she mentions the story that James told her about his father giving him his first camera before he died while in maneuvers in the military. Lucy never heard that story and got jealous and hurt. She was already feeling insecure to begin with, so okay. And she then proceeds to pout throughout the rest of the episode, and I digress. I'm moving on from that. Anyway, that said, I didn't really feel any chemistry between the two characters from the beginning. I mean, I saw their relationship as more of a distraction for the series than anything else. And I think that its dissolution is a weight that is lifted from the show. So now we can kind of move on from there. Tower talking point number 3. Kara and the DEO. Hank Henshaw, a.k.a. John Jones, Martian Manhunter. This whole disparity between Kara and Hank Henshaw, a.k.a. John Jones, that was based on a lie that he killed her Aunt Astra as opposed to her sister Alex, it was stale to me from the beginning. I mean, it was a wink and nod cliche and a trope that I felt was entirely unnecessary for this show. I'm so happy that this didn't drag on any longer than it did. For more on that, see Talking Tower Point 4 and Pros. Kara's actions and reactions were more childish than legitimately angry, in my opinion. I understand where the supposed anger came from, but it was poorly handled and poorly written, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the fate of the city and possibly the world is at stake, and you won't work with the DO because John killed your crazy aunt who was on a murderous rampage to save someone else's life. Yeah, grow up, Kara. Tower talking point number 4. Kara and Alex, the truth shall set you free. Well, hallelujah. I'm so glad that Alex finally had the guts to tell Kara the truth. I always felt that the idea of John taking the blame to keep Kara on track was not only cliche, but dumb with a B. I generally don't care for it when a show keeps a protagonist in the dark, then gives them an attitude because they don't know all the facts, which causes them to have displaced anger with another character. And as I suspected, Kara found out and was angry for a hot second and then forgave them both. Yay. Tower talking point number 5. Kara and Shaban. Shaban will develop into a much larger character. I won't say much more in case you don't read the news items for this particular TV show or any of the postings that I have made on our companion website blog. However, I'm glad that she was added because of who she's going to turn out to be as the series progresses. But right now, she is lame. This whole competition between her and Kara for Cat Grant's favor is annoying, to say the least. I'd have bought it more without the outright cattiness from Shaban, which is a played-out trope. I mean, in this episode, we learned that she had a troubled childhood and her father was a cheating bastard. Okay, this is the same in a lot of people's lives. Get over it. This is supposedly the reasoning behind her arrogant and condescending attitude towards everyone, Kara, Wynn, and practically everyone else that works at Catco. Kara tries to warn her about handing Cat an unopened package, and in Shaban's arrogance, she ignores the warning and is summarily embarrassed in an employee meeting. This is a lackluster comeuppance, in my opinion. I think this would have been better played had Shaban instead had been an aloof but overzealous competitor with Kara, who found some sort of kinship with her despite their rivalry. Of course, that's just my take on things. All right, so on to the Easter eggs for this particular episode. To set this up, when Kara and James visit the Fortress of Solitude, there are several Superman trophies and Kryptonian artifacts displayed prominently inside. But let's first talk about the Fortress of Solitude key. Kara asked James about the large, although not as large in the comics. In the comics, it was like basically half the size of a football field. This one's probably about the size of a duffel bag in terms of length. This key was left sitting outside the entrance, and James explains to Kara the key is made from 1,000,000 tons of condensed dwarf star material. This means that only a Kryptonian or someone of comparable strength could lift the key, let alone open the door. So Supergirl proceeds to pick up the key and they enter the fortress. Once they're inside the fortress, one of the things on display is a Legion flight ring. Now, in the comics, Superman had a career as Superboy, where he traveled to the future and became a member of the Legion of Superheroes, a futuristic team of superheroes from the 31st century. In the comics, Supergirl also traveled to the future, where she also became a member of the team and where she engaged in a romance with fellow Legionnaire Brainiac 5, who is a descendant of Brainiac, Superman's foe. Does this foreshadow a meeting between Kara and the Legion? Personally, I hope so, but I'm not sure. We'll have to continue watching the show to see. One interesting note, on the Flash TV show, when Barry travels between Earth 1 and Earth 2, a Legion flight ring was shown. So does this mean that the Legion exists on various Earths, or was this merely a flash forward to the future of Supergirl's universe? Again, we'll have to continue watching the show to find out. Also, interesting note about Indigo is that she is identified as a member of the Kaluans, which is an alien race which produced Brainiac. And this is kind of a foreshadowing of Brainiac possibly showing up in the series. Only time will tell. Okay, so now we've reached the segment of the show called Pros and Cons. This is where I give you my opinions on the pros and cons of the episodes. Okay, so we'll start with the pros. I like this episode's villain for the most part. More on that in the cons. The tone of the series is supposed to be lighthearted and good-natured, and these are attributes that this episode tried to live up to, but it was, for all the good it was bogged down by a lot of the cons, which I have a lot more cons for this episode than I have pros. I'd say the two good things that came out of this episode was that James and Lucy broke up. Yay. I also was pleased that Alex confessed to killing Astra and Kara's misplaced anger at John was dealt with. I felt this might have dragged on forever at the rate things were going, but I'm glad the writers had the foresight to deal with this sooner rather than later. Okay, on to the cons. There are always things which the writers seem to overlook or don't think of with the scripts for this show. For instance, when the missile is headed for National City, Hank Henshaw, aka John Jones, is still standing around in his human guise even before Supergirl shows up on the radar that they are tracking the missile with and is shown to be in pursuit. Now, given that John has powers and abilities which rival Supergirl's, wouldn't he have ducked out of the conference room or headquarters and shifted into his Martian form and stopped the missile, or at least tried to? I know it's Supergirl show, and I know it's not John Jones' Martian Manhunter, but that seemed like a moment where he would have helped Kara, whether she was angry with him or not, for the greater good. Of course, from the show's perspective, the CGI budget was a factor, but to me, instead of him assuming his true form while sparring with Alex, this would have been a better use of the CGI, and it would have better served the story. Also, Kara's pouty attitude and reaction to the stakes Indigo posed were pure childish and quite irresponsible in my opinion. This was a distraction from the story and deleted cool points. Seriously. All I can say to the writers is, way to go making Kara a whiny, emotional simpleton and playing into the stereotypes for female superheroes. Come on, people. Also, I thought the whole bad attitude of Siobhan towards Wynn and how she flipped it when he showed her just a little bit of compassion and then jumped his bones as they were going into the elevator, it was just out of place and it was contrived. This came out of nowhere. It really didn't serve the story at all. It was almost as though the writers didn't know what else to do with these characters for this episode, so they decided that they were just going to have them have some kind of off-putting romance or whatever. I'd have appreciated it more if this had developed over time between these two characters and not been something that just was, thrown in our face like that. Anyway, final thoughts. Although I mostly enjoy this show, I feel that it's taking a lot longer to hit its stride in comparison to The Flash. I enjoy the main cast and the introductions of the villains, with the exception of Red Tornado. That sucked. The up and down with how Kara is portrayed emotionally and some of the goofiness of the writing has me concerned as to whether this show will find its stride, and if it does, whether it will be too little too late. However, I'm looking forward to seeing where this show goes within the larger DC multiverse and as we head towards the end of the season. Hopefully the writers will pull craniums from rectums and turn this thing around stat. In related news, we'll be airing recap review shows for Arrow, The Flash, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Supergirl, and DC's Legends of Tomorrow weekly. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to get all of our shows. Also, tune in here for our next recap review show, which I hope will air following the episode's air dates for each show mentioned prior. Thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time, Hewa! The Two Towers Talk Show is sponsored in part by Showtime Cinema in Mooresville, Indiana. Their friendly staff is always willing to go the extra mile to make your movie-going experience an enjoyable and memorable one. Enjoy the comfort of their new cushioned seating in their spacious auditoriums, and while you're there, be sure to stop by the concession stand and purchase some popcorn where real butter topping is an option. They're located at 300 South Bridge Street in Mooresville, Indiana. We hope to see you at the movies. Be sure to check out our advertising partner, DC and Marvel, a universal alliance. They are a friendly Facebook community who offer digital comic book giveaways, games, tournaments, and viewing parties. Follow the link below and give them a look. You'll be glad you did.